brothers and sisters there. So what I learned was God does work everywhere. I mean, and every, like, no matter what language, what culture, wherever it is, it's all, everyone believes and worships God. And that's how I also learned about the children there. We went to, since we were on a religious visa, we had to do something religious every day that we were there. And since the camp was Monday through Friday and we were there an extra day Saturday, we went to one of the churches, and they don't have like this. They have, what their church was they have it in someone's backyard. And they put it, they had like a fence and a big, what did they have? Like, it was like a tarp. And that's how they projected like all the music and stuff up there. And like some of the kids that we went to camp with, they traveled like a couple hours to just so they can go to the church with us. And just so like they go to great distances and great lengths and everything just to be able to worship God. So that kind of hit me hard also, is they don't have a lot, but they do whatever they can to worship God, and that's what stuck out to me also.
So we were in two locations while we were in Cuba. One was Havana, and we did some cultural things there, as well as visit with one of the home churches. There are no church buildings there, as Andrew was saying. And that we did in Havana, and then the majority of our time was spent at the Cuba camp, which is for 12-year-olds to 30-year-olds. And these 12-year-old to 30-year-olds come from all over the island. The Moravian Church is fairly new. There are 8 churches there, and there are about 11 fellowships. And then there are a lot of house churches that come off of that, almost like a grapevine. If you think about a grapevine, that's basically what it would look like. And so our counterparts traveled very far on bumpy roads. We were fortunate that the roads that we traveled were all paved, but folks coming from Guantanamo and further up towards Veradero, they did not have the luxuries that we did, that's for sure. Although the luxury at the camp was pretty good, yeah, so that was pretty much okay. And you talked about the phone and being 1 peso for that young woman. That 1 peso is 3 months worth of allowance.
It was 25 pesos, which is equivalent to $1
Okay,
here.
25 pesos.
And there was a couple people there that they actually spoke. Well, most of them, they did speak English, but it's to certain degrees. But one of them, it was a night watcher that they had there. And the first night we got there, and we were by ourselves, and so Andrew, the other Andrew the tall, and I, after everyone like went up to their rooms, we were just walking around, and we talked to the night watcher, and he was telling us that doctors and psychologists make $35 a month. So like that, but for like the girl that has the phone, I didn't know if she had a job or what it was. But so if she didn't have a job, that trying to get all that money just to buy that phone was a lot for her to do. And like I said, like there were some kids there like that had more like the better phones, but they were probably like imported, or they were brought from the United States to here. So she had like one of the old phones, which is to us is like ancient to us now, or to like my generation is ancient to us. And like for her, that's like the best thing that she had was that phone.
It was fairly interesting because our U.S. phones do not work in Cuba because of the embargo. That is not something that we can do or we have flexibility with. And oftentimes the phones in Cuba can't call out to the United States, so we had to have special arrangements so that we could call home and say hello and make sure everybody was okay here. How are you different today compared to when you signed up for this experience?
Going off of what I said earlier is pretty much like I said, being overprivileged and having so much for me, that kind of changed my view on how it is, how the world actually is. It's where we have so much more than we actually. I mean, there's times where I've seen people that and we've all heard it, where like there's the kids or anyone is selfish in a way that they're upset that they didn't get like the newest phone or the newest video game or whatever. For them, it's like it's just what they have. Like there was we were briefed before we went on the trip to pack lightly, because there was some of the kids, they only had like what they brought to that camp clothing wise. That's all they owned. And there I would see throughout each day that the kids would change their outfits multiple times during the day, just so, because that's all they had, and they didn't want to get it like sweaty or dirty and all that. So that's why they switched it multiple times during the day, just so they could wear it for the rest of the week. So just kind of like that thing, just kind of like that, I learned about myself that I have so much more than I could ask for.
So as you're thinking about our time there and about the inequity of our world globally, how do you want to make a change? How do you want to work to build God's kingdom, which really promotes equality?
I would love to go on more mission trips and help out and do everything I can, and as much as I can. I know there's always limits of what we can do, but I would like to, in a way, push those limits to do as much as I can to help everyone there, or around the world actually. So.
I like that. The world being right in our backyard, as well as all the way to Cuba or Africa or China, depending on where you go. Okay, and is there anything that you're holding in prayer right now?
Specifically, I can't pick out one person, one of the campers or anyone there that I would have a specific, like, I'm praying for them every day, because everyone is in my prayers. I got this bracelet from one of the campers there. She just randomly, the last day, right before we said our goodbyes, she grabbed my arm and she put this on. So like, I keep this with me. It never comes off. So as long as I have it on there, like, that's how I'm gonna remember everyone there. And I remember there was one kid. He's 20 now. I think he's 20 now. When he was 5, he just randomly walked into one of the churches that were at the camp, and he went there by himself for 15 years, and he's in remission now for leukemia. He had leukemia, and he's in remission now. So like that, and they don't have the kind of technology and medical stuff. So just the fact that, like, if you saw him, I don't know if we have pictures of him, or I don't know what all we have of him, but he looks like one of us. Like, he doesn't look like he had any medical issues or anything. So just like him, I'm keeping sort of a little bit more, and the girl that gave me the bracelet, but pretty much everyone there, I'm keeping them in my prayers.
Andrew's talking about Noel. Noel is 20 years old and has become a leader in the church. And he did indeed enter the church when he was 5 years old on his own through one of the outreach ministries that they have in Cuba. And he has just dedicated his life to working for and in and with the church. He does suffer with leukemia, but is doing much better. And I could see him at seminary someday. Yes, most definitely. So what's the snapshot that you take with you?
Okay, so I actually have 2 snapshots that really stick out to me. One of them you'll see in the video that we're going to play. It's where, when we were at the camp, there was a small room. I mean, not very small, but it was, we had, like 60, 70 people there
Yes.
total. There was like 70 people crammed into this one room, and every day for hours on end, that was a room we would do everything in. And just looking around, seeing everyone singing was something that sticks in my mind. And then the second one is there was a beach right across the street, so that was kind of, we went there every day, which was pretty cool. But the one day,
Let me explain. Free time every day.
yes, free time.
Just
every
like
day.
Camp Hope, you know, you have free time at Camp Hope, you go to the pool. But in Cuba, you go to the beach. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, we went to the beach, and one of the things, one day they had cut up pool noodles, and that was still early in the week when we were still getting to know each other and breaking out of our shell and everything. And I just remember all of us, how we connected. We didn't really talk to each other. We just were going around smacking each other with the pool noodles. And there was people staring at us with us hitting each other with the pool noodles. And it's like, because I'm like really white, so I stick out. So just like kind of those things, it's like, why are they interacting with that type of thing? So that kind of stuck out to me. And later on in the week, I was sick. So when we went to the beach, I just like sat back in the water, and like they were doing the pool noodle fight, and just like watching everyone there, and that kind of hit me that this is really like happening. We're all coming together as one. So.
So this is in the street, a live dance party in the street.
Oh, and the first small clip that we were in a cave at Veradero Beach. That's where they all were. And this is the room that we all came together and sang in.
And that's Reverend Obed. He was one of the leaders there. And he started out the first day singing this song, Toma Tomalo, which became one of our theme songs for the week. And I said to Andrew, do you think we could sing that for everybody at Covenant? And he looked at me and I looked at him and we're like, we don't know the words well enough. So that's just a piece of that. Thank you, Andrew, so much. We appreciate it. You'll hear a little bit more in a few minutes, but let's take a little break and sing a hymn together. Forth in your name, O Lord, I go. Page 638. in a country that was developing and trying to grow. And at this village, they had one road, and through the blessing and gifts of many, they were able to pave that one road. But because it was traveled so much, the road started to get worn and have potholes and bumps and bruises in it, if you were. And there was a group in a developed world like the United States, not so much unlike this church, Covenant Moravian Church, who heard about this one road in the developing world and heard that it was in need of repair. And so they raised money and they found a way to get to this country and to help repave the road. And they came back and were so excited about their work. They knew that this is what they were called to do, to reach out, to help others, to care for people, to make the world a better place. And indeed they were. Yet, not too long in the future, they had a call from that same country, that developing world, and they said, our road again is in great disrepair, and we're not sure what to do. And so the church gathered funding again together, and the church went back, and this time they brought some really heavy-duty tar. They were going to make sure that this road stayed safe, and so they paved the roadway once again. And because they had made friends with the people in this developing world, they actually worked together. They worked together side by side, repaving the road, and when it was all done, they stood back and they said, that's good, that's really good. And I'm so glad we got to work with each other, to be with each other. We really felt Christ's presence as we were working together. And so the people from the Covenant Moravian Church came home and went back to doing what they usually do. They kept their relationships. They emailed every once in a while, or they called every once in a while, or wrote a letter. But eventually, the relationship sort of waned a little bit. And guess what? That road in that developing world, it did not survive. It was used very hard, and so it got more potholes, and it started to fall apart. And so the people in the developing world called Covenant and said, our road is in need of repair again. And what are we going to do? Because we can't get our goods in and out of the village, and we can't be mobile. And so Covenant thought and said, we want to go and help and rebuild this road. And then one person said, we're going to be doing this from now to the end of time. What can we do differently to make a change? So they thought about it, they prayed about it, they went to scripture about it, and they kept coming back to that wonderful passage that we heard read, that Matthew 25. And if you see a need, you got to fill it. If somebody needs a cup of cold water, you got to give it. And if you see someone in prison, you have to go visit them. If somebody's in the hospital, you have to do everything you can. We have to do this. We have to do this. And they decided, yeah, we do. We need to reach out. We just need to do it a little differently. So they decided this time, instead of taking everything they needed with them, raising all the money and doing that what they would do is just raise enough money to get there. And so they went there, and they asked if they could stay with the people who they had met before. So they stayed in their homes, and they started building relationships with them. They started listening and talking back and forth, and then someone asked the question, what are we going to do about that road? And the people from Covenant said, well, what would you do if you were here by yourselves? Well, the people said, we wouldn't do anything because we can't afford to do anything. We don't know how. And then one of the people in Covenant said, well, let's go to the store tomorrow and see what we can find in your store. So off they went to the store, and on the way to the store, they were having a conversation, and they were talking about some ground that was located, some dirt that was located just outside the village. And that dirt seemed to almost be stable, like it never got washed away, and it just sort of stayed on the road, and it was always there. And so one of the people said, well, maybe we ought to go get some of that dirt and put some of that dirt down first. So they decided that instead of going to the store and buying stuff, that's what they would do. They would go and get that dirt and they would put it down together. And they did, and they stood back and they said, that looks really nice. Now we have to do something to make it even better. But the sun was going down, so they decided to go home. And when they went home, one of the people said, I have a whole pot of soup. Why don't you come over to my house? We'll have soup at my house. And somebody else who was hosting one of the groups said, oh, I have some great bread that I had made. I'll bring that. And someone else said, and I've got some fresh fruit. I'll bring that. And so they had a feast. They had a love feast. They sat and they talked and they grew their relationships with one another. And at the end of the evening, one of the people said, I think I know someone in the next village who can help us with that road. Let's go there tomorrow, and we'll talk with them and see what we can do. And so they did. They got up and they went to the next village. And together they figured out how to take care of that road. And it was all done. They all stood back. Now there are 2 villages involved, and the village of Covenant Moravian is involved. All these villages are involved, and they're looking at this road and they're celebrating. Because not only did they give a full cup of water, not only did they see a need and fill the need, they actually reached out to one another in love and in relationship. And those relationships lived on long after Covenant went home. For me, that's what mission is all about. It's about the relationships that we have with each other and the power that we have through relationships to solve problems together. In and through that time together, Christ is seen. Now, this isn't anything new. This is very much part of the Moravian history. I got people shaking their heads. Yeah, we heard this story before. That's right. The early missionaries would go into the country, work alongside of the people, build relationships with the people, build a school or a hospital. They would help in the fields with the sugar cane, and they found themselves in relationship, and someone there would ask, what the heck would you do that for? And they would respond, because Jesus calls us to serve. Jesus calls us to give the cup of cold water. Jesus calls us to visit the sick. Jesus calls us to be the servant, to make this kingdom, his kingdom,